If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word.
This is America! We do what we want to do! We want to get dressed up pretty! We get dressed up pretty! We want to wear blue jeans! We wear blue jeans! We want to go out with good-looking women! We go out with good-looking women! This is America!
So here's the deal. Donald Trump, just a few days into his new term as president, has come out with some big promises. And the one we're diving into today is potentially the biggest announcement he's made in his entire political career. It's not just any policy talk, it's about free speech, something Trump's calling the fight of our lifetime. And he's got a plan to shake things up on this front. And just to give you an idea of how important this announcement is, even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posted about it, saying it should put Trump on Mount Rushmore. That's a huge endorsement. So let's break this down. We know free speech is not just some abstract concept. It's the cornerstone of democracy. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects our right to speak freely, to challenge authority, and to openly discuss ideas, even if they're controversial or go against the grain. Without this freedom, we wouldn't have the ability to hold our leadership accountable, have public debates, or expose corruption and injustice. It's what makes this democracy work. But recently, there's been a lot of talk about censorship in America, and people feel like their voices are being shut down, not just by companies, but by the government working hand in hand with big tech.
I don't feel at home with people who believe in censorship. I think it's disqualifying. It's antithetical and inconsistent with democracy.
Reports have been popping up about government agencies allegedly collaborating with major tech companies to suppress certain viewpoints, labeling them as misinformation and even disinformation. It's got people on edge because it feels like there's an effort to control what we can say, hear, or even think. This idea that lawful speech that doesn't break any laws, could be filtered, censored, or suppressed by powerful entities raises big questions about where we're headed as a society. So, Trump, in response to this growing concern, has laid out a 5-point plan that he says will tackle what he calls the censorship cartel. Here's what he's proposing. Step 1. Right after he takes office, he says he's going to sign an executive order. This would ban federal agencies from collaborating with any business, organization, or person to censor, limit, or label speech as misinformation or disinformation. In other words, he's aiming to keep government bodies out of the censorship business altogether. Step 2. Trump plans to direct the Department of Justice, DOJ, to investigate all parties involved in the so-called censorship regime. He's saying that any violations of laws like campaign finance laws, civil rights, or even election laws should be prosecuted. And he's calling on Congress, especially House Republicans, to preserve evidence by sending preservation letters to the Biden administration, tech giants, and others involved. He wants to make sure there's accountability of censorship took place. Step 3. This one's about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, a law that protects tech companies from being held liable for content posted by their users. Trump's proposing that platforms should only qualify for this immunity if they meet strict standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. He believes that these companies should be required to move genuinely unlawful content, things like child exploitation or terrorism content, but shouldn't have the power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Essentially, he wants to put these tech companies on a tighter leash when it comes to deciding what's allowed and what isn't. Step 4. Trump wants to break up what he's calling the censorship industry. He's targeting federal funding for nonprofits and academic programs that he claims are supporting censorship under the guise of tackling misinformation. Universities, he says, that are found to have engaged in censorship activities could lose federal research funding and student loan support altogether. This step is about making sure that public money doesn't fund what he views as efforts to stifle free speech. And last, step 5. Finally, Trump's calling for our digital Bill of Rights. This would include rights like digital due process, meaning that government agencies couldn't just ask tech companies to take down content. They'd need a court order. It would also mean that if someone's content or account is removed, shadow banned, or restricted in any way, they'd have the right to know exactly why it happened, and they'd also be able to appeal this. Plus, anyone over the age of 18 would have the right to opt out of content moderation and see an unfiltered stream of information if they want. Now, as you can imagine, people have a lot of opinions on this. Supporters like RFK Jr. are thrilled, seeing Trump's plan as a major push to protect constitutional rights and combat what he views as an authoritarian trend. They feel like we're at a crossroads where either we protect free speech or risk losing the very democratic principles the country was built on. For them, this plan is a huge step in the right direction. But of course, there are critics too. Some argue that while tackling censorship is crucial, there's a need to address the problem of misinformation and harmful content that can spread on the internet. They worry that loosening regulations might lead to a flood of unchecked, harmful information that could impact public health, safety, and even democracy itself. The challenge is finding a balance between protecting free speech and ensuring that the digital space doesn't become a place for dangerous or manipulative content. So here we are. This free speech debate is shaping up to be one of the defining issues of our time, and Trump's proposals show that he's willing to go all in on addressing these concerns. It's going to be a long road filled with tough conversations and heated debates about what free speech means in the digital age. And as we move forward, it's going to be crucial for everyone, supporters, critics, and everyone in between, to stay engaged and ensure that whatever decisions we do make, they uphold the democratic values that we hold dear. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Stay alert, stay informed, and as always, question everything. See you in the next one.